Good morning and welcome to the 2015 Mayor's Budget Address. Commissioners, one of the great privileges that I have as serving as mayor of our great city is the opportunity to outline a balanced budget for the upcoming year. And our budget prioritizes the expenditure of our city revenues, but it also allows our residents to understand where their tax dollars go and why programs and services that we invest in are essential to meeting the needs of our residents and our business owners. Over the last several years, we have successfully together managed uncharted territory due to the global economic crisis and the impact of state-mandated property tax caps. This forced many other state governments to declare financial emergencies, but not here in Orlando. We made our government more efficient, not with quick fixes, but by making the tough decisions to cut non-essential services to ensure the long-term financial stability of our city. And let me be clear about this, it wasn't easy. We tightened our belt to the very last notch. We learned to do more with less. We stretched vehicle maintenance and replacement just as far as it would go. We reduced our staff. We delayed some infrastructure projects. We found new and efficient ways to invest in our city. And all of these actions have helped to ensure the long-term financial health of our city. This fiscal responsibility is demonstrated in our credit ratings and our fully funded reserves. And even though we already have the highest municipal ratings in the state, this year S&P further improved our credit rating. What the rating agencies have to say about our budget and our financial management is even more impressive. Moody's noted, the city has balanced its budget in fiscal year 2015 with reserves still at healthy levels and the expectation of structurally balanced operations maintained in the coming years. S&P shared this in their report. While the city has cut its budget meaningfully, it has not cut core services to the extent that other Florida cities have. These ratings speak to our strong financial management and validate that we have been good stewards of our taxpayers' money. What's more important is that our residents continue to receive the highest quality city services anywhere. Every single day, our residents are served by a police department that has reduced overall crime for 6 of the last 7 years. A top-rated fire department with a cardiac save rate 3 times the national average. A public works department that repairs 90% of potholes within 24 hours of being reported. A solid waste division that handles 500,000 garbage and recycling pickups each week with 99.98% on time. A wastewater division that converts 15 billion gallons of wastewater each year into crystal clear recycled water. That's enough to fill Lake Eola 145 times while maintaining the, quote, wastewater collection system of the year as recognized by Florida Wastewater Environmental Association. A fleet division that was named one of the top 20 green fleets in the United States. A city planning division whose plans have won award after award of excellence from the Florida chapter of the American Planning Association. A family parks and rec department that maintains more than 4,500 acres of beautiful parks for our residents to enjoy and is caring for 5,000 children every day. And a facilities division that has saved more than $1 million through energy retrofits already. And once our second phase is complete, will save us over $2 million a year. And oh, by the way, these savings are helping us pay for half of the new OPD headquarters. Our residents can be proud that they receive this high level of service for an average tax bill of $62 a month. That is far less than most people pay for cell service. This year, we're proposing to maintain our current millage rate while continuing our 5-star services and to invest in Orlando. We're also saving our residents an average $33 a household by foregoing the automatic increases in our wastewater and solid waste fees. As the economy recovers and our revenues get back to pre-recession levels, this year's budget includes funding for more than 100 projects focused on ensuring that Orlando remains a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Now, some of these investments won't grab headlines, but they impact the lives of our residents each and every day. We're investing more than $50 million in our city's infrastructure, including resurfacing roadways so that residents can travel safely, improving stormwater drains and sewers in neighborhoods so that our streets won't flood. And a lot of these improvements might not be visible to our residents, but they are critically important and essential to maintain the level of services that Orlando is known for. Residents want to be assured that when they get to a traffic light, it operates properly. When it rains, the streets drain. And when they flush a toilet, well, it goes in the right direction. And it's our obligation to maintain the infrastructure components that we depend on daily. They need to work properly, not just today, but for future residents of Orlando. The stormwater improvements go beyond preventing flooding, but they also help to keep our lakes and our urban wetlands clean. To help accomplish that goal, we'll be funding a study to determine the best way to enhance and improve the La Costa wetlands, and we're making improvements to increase the water quality in Rock Lake. Other investments will continue to make our city a safe place to live. In this budget, we're funding investments in new equipment and technology for our police officers and our firefighters, including funding for the purchase of body cameras for our OPD patrol officers, which will help expedite their deployment. The hard work of our police department is making a difference in our community. Our overall crime citywide is down 20% since 2007, and our fire department has a Class 1 ISO rating as well as international accreditation, making it one of only 15 departments in the nation that have both. Keeping our city safe remains our top priority. We're also continuing our commitment to help our homeless residents. This budget supports our community service agencies that have been serving the homeless in our community. Building on these efforts, our region has renewed our commitment to serve the homeless using a new national model for housing the chronically homeless called Housing First. To further support all of these homeless initiatives, this budget dedicates $4 million towards this community effort. Now, Phase 1 of Sunrail has provided a backbone for public transportation. And as we look to enhance and expand our transportation options to make it easier to get around, this budget starts to set aside money towards an expansion to continue Sunrail to the airport. Beyond public transportation, it's also important that pedestrians, and especially our children walking to school, can safely get around our community. We're investing $500,000 in this budget to focus on upgrading our sidewalks near schools to make walking to school safer, and that's in addition to our $2 million Orlando Walks initiative. Many of these investments are things that you will see directly in our neighborhoods. We're investing $2 million to provide better amenities and enhance our parks, playgrounds, and community centers with projects such as renovating the playground at Matthews Park, an overhaul of some of the indoor and outdoor recreation equipment at the Smith Center, and enhancements to our heavily used skate park. Projects like these make Orlando an even better place to raise a family and call home. It's important that Orlando remains a city for everyone, and our parks and community centers help us do just that. As our city grows, we must invest in making sure our residents and business owners can continue to have a great experience interacting with city government. To help do this, we're investing in building out our digital city hall by bringing our permitting, planning, and code enforcement systems online. The first portion of this will be online permitting for small businesses, which will roll out later this year. To ensure we continue to provide the best customer service, we've created a new position focused on exactly that, on engaging and responding to our residents' concerns. Commissioners, the budget proposal in front of you today also continues to invest in the essential programs and services that are necessary for people to go about their lives. Stormwater, wastewater, garbage, trash, recycling pickup, and other health and safety functions. The budget invests in proven programs that link our most vulnerable young people with education and opportunity through our youth programs that serve more than 5,000 youth every day. Our budget continues to support the private sector in creating high-quality jobs and diversifying our Central Florida economy with programs such as our Main Street districts, which provide a path for entrepreneurship, small business success, and stronger neighborhoods. Since this program's start, our investments in the Main Street districts have resulted in 600 new businesses and the creation of 4,000 full and part-time jobs. And I want to say thank you to each one of you commissioners. It is your hard work and leadership that is ensuring that we are a financially responsible city. As I look back on my time as mayor, one of the things that I am most proud of is the change in our culture of spending. Government at every level is often criticized for fostering a dynamic where employees feel compelled to spend every dollar of their department's budget for fear of having their budgets reduced in the next fiscal year. Not here in Orlando. Our department directors work hard and they actually take pride in coming in under budget and returning funds to our reserves. I want to thank our CFO, Rebecca Sutton, our CAO, Byron Brooks, every city department director and division manager, and especially our frontline employees for their commitment to high-quality services and fiscal responsibility. I also want to thank the residents of Orlando. I know that our residents are proud of how our city has weathered our nation's economic challenges. I know we are also proud that Orlando is one of the most financially stable city governments in the state. I hear every day how proud our residents are to live in the city of Orlando. And together we're committed to continuing to invest in our city to ensure that we remain the best city in the country to live, work, and raise a family. So this concludes my formal remarks. And now I'd like to ask our Deputy CFO, Brian Battles, to provide the council with a recap of the budget, along with what they have been working on since our last presentation and what our next steps in the budget process are. Thank you very much.
Morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Today we're going to just again talk about a quick recap of the numbers that were explained, as well as I wanted to explain some of the continued budget development that goes on, and then also some important dates. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is really how we've been communicating and how we've been getting this message out to the public. We're mainly been using our website as well as these presentations. So all the workshops, the workshop from a few weeks ago, all the documents that have been presented to each of your offices, the budget and brief, the notebooks, and then shortly we should have the mayor's budget address and then this slide deck as well available for public viewing online, as well as copies in the clerk's office if anyone needs to come in and see a hard copy. At a high level, some of the big things that we touched on in this budget, as we talked about, we're really trying to maintain our operating commitments to the high levels of service, but as well have some increased funding for infrastructure, facilities, and parks by returning our capital program back to pre-recession allocations, increasing our contingency levels, and again, balancing this budget without the use of any prior year unspent revenues. As I noted previously, a few weeks ago, the majority of our revenues are trending in the positive direction, and most of this is a direct result of the economic climate. Overall, this budget still only results in a revenue increase of about 7%. And on the expenditure side of the equation, I wanted to make sure that we talked about, if you really kind of start looking at just the operating areas of each of these departments, we're basically getting a range of about 4 to 6% increase, even though as a whole, you're still seeing an over a 7% increase. One of the items that was talked about previously that I wanted to address, because it is one of the larger numbers, is the non-departmental area. In that, about 25% of that number is related to our pensions and OPEB funds. About 37%, or the majority, is related to debt service funds throughout the city. 7% for kind of our capital or our general areas that have capital, and then the remainder related to our TIF payments sent from the general fund to the CRAs, as well as contingencies and some of the transfers in between funds. So as currently proposed, this budget is a 400 million roughly general fund, as well as a $715 million other funds. And I will point out that there's more breakdown of how we came to these numbers at the fund level, page 4 and 5 in the budget in brief, if you wanted to ask, as well as some explanations of some of those changes. So this is where the budget stands as of now. We've talked about it, that this is kind of the start of it. We wanted to bring a balanced budget, and the mayor proposed. But there is some continued analysis that will go on in the next couple months before our finalization. So I wanted to talk about that because I don't think we've really touched on it. Sometimes we usually come back and say what changed, but I wanted to explain kind of why some stuff might change. First, as we talked about previously, we are reviewing the state estimates. They're all out now. But again, we're taking that with their estimates and then kind of matching it towards our actual collections. And we're really trying to determine if there's any further refinements that are warranted from the numbers that we've presented here. We're also looking at city council actions since we started this budget development process. As you know, we have some budget review committee monthly meetings that have changed and set our priorities, as well as some commitments that are approved at city council. So we're making sure if there's any position changes or just additional expenses or a longer term commitment, that those are reflected in these numbers. Just recently, we got our final cost allocation plan from KPMG for our indirect cost billings. So we'll be implementing that final plan after we thoroughly vet their numbers. We will also be exploring additional grant opportunities. Again, most of those will come through city council, but there is a potential that if something is approved in these last month or so, or as well as the next month going forward, we want to make sure that those are included in the final budget that's adopted. After all this, again, we'll be rebalancing all of our funds and making sure we're continuing to have a balanced budget at the fund level. Some of these dates we talked about last week, but there's a couple new ones that I wanted to note related to some of the communications from external parties. Again, this afternoon, we'll have a vote on the tentative millage for the city, the DDB, the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, that allows us to fill out the appropriate forms with the property appraiser to get our tax bills correctly. They will be sending out August 14th. They'll send out those notices as a proposed property taxes to the citizens. So that may be a point where we get some calls. I touched base, and we have our number, the budget office's number on all of our trim forms. In previous years, we've usually fielded dozens of calls, so we'll continue to do that, just kind of explaining where we fit, and a lot of times being directing them actually to the property appraiser's office. September 9th, we'll have our first public hearing, followed by our required advertisement in the newspaper and publication. Again, this is the budget, does have a budget summary as well as a notice of our tax plan. September 17th, that usually comes out in the orange section. And then September 21st, we'll have our second public hearing on the millage and budget resolution. So that's really all I wanted to just reiterate and touch on today. I know we've had some conversations and dropped off a lot of material, so I wanted to make sure that I availed myself to any questions, any further questions, and then again, as we go through these next couple months before we get to the September finalization periods, myself and my office are available to address any of your concerns as well.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to the entire budget staff for all the hard work over not just the last couple of weeks, but really the last 6 months or so. Budget starts pretty quickly after the start of the fiscal year in October the 1st, so appreciate the culmination of all that with a balanced budget at the same millage rate as we were last year. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, Commissioner Gray, then Commissioner Sheehan.
Yeah, excuse me. Brian, thank you for providing some additional info, and I'm still going through that, so thank you. I'll reserve my right to challenge down the road. But Mayor, thank you. In your comments, you mentioned that our department heads have adopted a culture of spending and have done a very good job. So I think we, excuse me, owe them a debt of gratitude for staying within their budget. But at the same time, I've noticed some of us here, some of my fellow commissioners, have not adopted a very good culture of spending and have continued to exceed their operating budget. And so I'd like to challenge some of my peers up here to also adopt a culture of spending, and please consider staying within your budget. It seems to me awkward to ask our department heads to stay within a budget if we can't stay within one ourselves. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Sheehan.
Well, with that, I guess I'll say I always stay within budget, so.
So do I.
I'd just like to say that, that I'm glad to see that we did not have to dip into reserves, because that's what we've had to do in the past to help balance our budget. And it's interesting that 17 million is almost exactly how much we were short last year. And people got upset about the 17% increase, but that's interesting that that's only 7% of the overall budget. So I think when we're talking about these percentages, they get skewed when people are talking about, about the amount of increases. When you look at how much it is to the overall budget, that 17 million is 7% of the overall budget when you really start looking at how much they were really talking about. If something's artificially low, any increase is going to seem large. And I think it's really important to point out, too, that it's $62 a month that people pay for city services. That's everything from stormwater, the traffic lights, all those things that people take so for granted, the streets. Again, flushing your toilet takes a lot of people to make that go away. That is $62 a month, and I think most people pay more for their cable and internet service than they do for their city services. So again, putting that into perspective, thank you all for your hard work. I know that this is, a lot of work that you all put into this all year long, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for making us look good this year.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to our staff. I appreciate the work that you've done. Thank you to our senior leadership, as well as to our department heads. We have gone through some challenges, and while I have some particular opinions of things we ought to be doing, I'd like to express my personal thanks to the work that y'all have done, because it is yeoman's work. And let me echo both of the comments from Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Sheehan. Several years ago, I submitted a recommendation that we automatically just fix our commissioners' amounts based upon the size of the population, and that has not been was not received. I'm well prepared to submit that again and have this commission make that decision, because I think that we ought to be the best example to our community, and we ought to be completely transparent on that issue. And then also to Commissioner Sheehan's particular point, $62 a month, and I know that some will listen to us and say, I pay significantly more, and I understand that, and I don't have, that's that's the choice of where they live and what they have to pay, but as an average, $62 a month. I shared this comment a couple of years ago, and I'll do the same thing again. When you begin to look at all the other related costs, and you begin to look at the costs related specifically to police and fire protection, $62 a month doesn't come near the level of service you receive inside the city of Orlando. They pay $39 a month just to have somebody call the police, and then they effectively gripe that they pay $62 a month for people to actually show up within 4 to 6 minutes. And so our community needs to continue to remember, and I would say the same thing to all of our staff, continue to reiterate and reinforce the benefits of being part of this great city and the responses that we've done. I appreciate the mayor's leadership and the fiscal side, but I also appreciate the fact that we have done a good job communicating what our core services are and down to our senior staff, and making sure we are sticking on those core services as we expand. One of the areas I'd like to have us address somewhere along the line is, what are we doing about calling ourselves a city beautiful? It seems that there are a lot of areas that need additional attention, and I'm looking at some of those numbers right now, because I think that's what I hear from our community is, and I know it's a little Johnny-come-lately, and what have you done for me lately? But the idea is that this is good, this is good, this is good, but this doesn't look good. How do we accomplish that task? And so we need to work harder to make sure that is accomplished. And I don't know how to do that. I want to be creative about it, but we need to make sure we address that as best we can. But I appreciate the work everybody has done, because it really shows this a unified approach to a core mission of making sure our citizens have a great place to live and work and raise a family. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your leadership, and Rebecca and Brian, thank you, and staff for the excellent job that you have done. But I also like to address my fellow commissioners. Those in my community, or my constituents, mostly have never even owned a home. There is so much need in District 5 and District 6. Actually, I think I need a larger budget because there's much more work to do. There's many programs that I would like to implement because of such the need in my community. So I'm really slightly offended that it was stated, and I don't know which commissioner you're speaking of, Commissioner Gray, but my constituents don't live in $400,000 homes. Most of them stay in $400 shacks. So whatever I do with my budget, you can believe that it's to the best of the ability of trying to build people. And I think I need more money to do it. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, this was
Mayor, if I might.
Commissioner Gray.
Not intending to have a spat here, but Commissioner Hill, look, this might fall more form over substance. I understand it's not a large amount of money, but one of the things I continue to hear, not just from my constituents, from everybody, is that government should be run more like a business. And in every business I've been associated with, you have a budget. And it's your job as a leader to keep yourself within that budget. And if you can't get there, you need to explain why and make an adjustment. I don't doubt there's plenty of needs in all of our districts, not just yours, in all of our districts. And there's a lot of need, but I don't think we should say the needs in District 5, 6, 1, 2 are any more than anywhere else. We all have needs. So I'm just simply saying it's hard for me to imagine how we ask our department heads and our employees to make tough, critical decisions when we can't do them ourselves. That was my only point. And if the shoe fits, put it on. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Thank you.
Okay, so other than that, this is probably the easiest budget year we've had in about 5 years, I would say. And thank you, commissioners, for making tough decisions last year to ensure that we are where we are. And if I didn't emphasize it enough, all of the rating agencies took great note of what we did last year and how we've constructed our budget over the last few years. Okay, so we will work on this in the interim, and then Rebecca.
Commissioners, I just want to take a moment myself to communicate to all of you and to the public how incredibly lucky we are to have the talent that we have in our financial area. I cannot say enough about these folks. They're bright, they're motivated, they care, and you know, it's hard to find people anywhere that will have that level of commitment. And I'm just incredibly proud of the talent that we have put together. You know, these things don't, these things from rating agencies are very objective. These are very objective reviews. And so this is not about relationships that exist or anything else. This is just pure, raw numbers and pure, raw management. And I just think that I want you to go away today feeling good about the talent that we have in the Office of Business and Financial Services, and that's going to serve this city and our citizens for years and years to come.
Rebecca. Two things, just because there's 3 people watching this on TV, could you explain why the ratings are important, other than just saying it says you're a financially responsible city, but why are the rating agencies' ratings of our city, when we get a AAA, why is that important?
Well, it's important to me for several reasons. The first is that it is a very, as I said before, a very objective measure of how I am doing as a CFO. Am I guiding the organization properly? Am I making the right recommendations to you? You know, are we attacking the problems that we have in a manner in which it's the most prudent that we possibly can. So I see that as really a personal evaluation of how I am serving. Secondly, it is a very common evaluator for just how this city is run. And many people go and look up the ratings and read the rating reports just to get information about us. And that sometimes is a function of investment. Sometimes it's just a function of research. And so as a result, I'm proud that we have excellent information out there indicating how well this council, as well as this staff on this city, is managing what's set before us. Then the third and more obvious answer is that when we have a higher rating, our debt costs go down. And usually for every rating, sub-rating, we have major ratings and then we have minor ratings or sub-ratings. And for every sub-rating, that's about roughly about 0.25% on our debt rate. And when you have big numbers for debt, then that means real money. And that means money that this council can determine how to reprogram and spend on things that will benefit our community.
Then secondly, would you have your staff stand, and I know we did this last meeting, but somebody different might be here, so just stand and introduce them and tell the functions.
I'll start over here with, this is Brendan Gibson currently. He's the analyst for Families, Parks and Rec and Orlando Venues. Tysha Resnick, the analyst for the Fire Department and Housing. Ashley Connolly, Public Works and Economic Development. Eric Hutcherson, Police Department, and Jason Vojkovic, a new addition to our staff. Led over here by Mr. Martin Carmody, who kind of handles executive offices as well as just making sure that I'm in line.
All right, this concludes our budget presentation, and we will be back in September for a couple of public hearings.
Thank you, Mayor.